Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Green 19 podcast. I'm Dominique Yates. I'm joined by Ryan Wood and Tom Silverstein on this Thursday, just a few days before the Green Bay Packers head to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Another noon game set for Sunday, so let's run through some things and just talk about this team looking for, I guess it's now a third straight win. They're 5-2 on the season and had some highs and lows to this point. Let's start with, I guess, from the injury perspective, because on this Thursday, Corey Ballantyne's the one guy that did not practice. On Wednesday, there were a few more guys that were out in full pads. But I guess one bright spot, especially when you look at the defense, and in particular the defensive line, Devontae Wyatt coming back. He's been practicing, and he said in the locker room he should be good to go. I'll start with you, Spoon. Just, how much of a boost is that having Wyatt back, especially because how well he was playing before he was injured?
Yeah, I mean, they're a healthy team. They are, compared to most NFL teams, I mean, compared to Detroit and, Minnesota, they're extremely healthy. And after the way they got after C.J. Stroud last week and then to throw Wyatt in the mix I mean, really, Wyatt was probably their best pass rusher when he went out.
That's true.
I mean, he was getting after the quarterback. Yeah, it certainly can't hurt at all. I think it makes it easier for Halfley on early downs that he doesn't have to bring pressure as much with Wyatt. But I think it also creates more of an issue, when they start moving Gary around. Who do you block one-on-one and who do you double, And I think that'll be something to watch.
Yeah, for Wyatt coming in, like Spoon just mentioned, Ryan, they have something working well right now. They were moving around Gary and some of those other guys. Kenny Clark stepped up well in some pressure situations in this past game. So how much of it is a boost having Wyatt back as well? But also, I know Quay Walker was a guy, he's been through concussion protocol, but he practiced on this Thursday. The two offensive linemen, Josh Myers and Elton Jenkins, practiced. But in particular, defense, how much do you see that as a boost, at least for sure, having Wyatt?
Yeah, I mean, personnel matters for sure. I think the big question with the pass rush is whether or not what Jeff Halfley found last week with stacking the line of scrimmage with 7, picking and choosing who he brings, who he doesn't, who he drops into coverage, whether that was a one-time thing for C.J. Stroud or if he thinks he unlocks something there, because it sure looked like to me that he found something in that, and it was very different. We mentioned it. It was very different than what Jeff Halfley thought coming into the season, where he was just going to drop 7 and get home with the front 4 and keep it pretty simple and just really rely on the players. But he schemed up a lot of pressure. It wasn't a lot of blitzing. It was just scheme. It was creative. It was diverse, flexible. And is that a one-week thing? Or do you go and throw that at Trevor Lawrence now because you had so much success with it? I would think that he wants to stick with what he had. So, yeah, you want all the players that you have on your 2 deep on the field. And the Packers have been very fortunate to avoid the chronic injury bug this season. But to me, it's more about the scheme at this point. Can they continue doing? And now it's been on film, so how do the Jaguars adjust to it?
Speaking of scheme, just what do you make of what the Packers have right now, and how much of what they're doing right now is something to kind of build on and work with?
Well, they can do it when Alexander's healthy.
That's true.
When he's not healthy, it changes a lot because they don't have someone who can essentially take away a third of the field, which he mostly does. He has his games where he's not as good, but they just couldn't. Houston couldn't really penetrate his area at all because he played so well against them. That's what changes, and it gives Halfley all this ability to do all these different things. I think if I were him going into the Jacksonville, I would be trying to stop the run first. They have 2 pretty good running backs. Tank Bigsby's kind of taken over as the lead back, even though they got, Travis Etienne. He's just been really good. I think he's averaging like 6.2 yards a carry or something like that. And they gotta slow that down. And then, they got to figure out also how to stop Brian Thomas. I don't think Jair Alexander should be matched up against Brian Thomas. This guy's, what, 6'4", 210 or something like. I mean, he's huge, and he's probably going to be the offensive rookie of the year the way he's playing. So there are some matchups that could cause them a little bit of trouble and could test Hafley on whether it's worth blitzing or not.
The run game has been their bugaboo. If you had to pick one weakness for this Packers defense so far through 7 games, they've given up 4 100-yard rushers. So I would imagine that has to be weighing on Jeff Hafley's mind coming into this game. But to me, the conundrum of the Jaguars starts at their quarterback, right? Trevor Lawrence is paid like a top 5 guy in the league, and he has not played like a top 5 quarterback. And when you look at their season so far, when Trevor Lawrence has played well, they've won. He just hasn't played well all that much. Twice this season, in 2 games, Trevor Lawrence has a passer rating above 100, and they won both of those games. When he doesn't have a passer rating above 100, when it's below 100, they've lost every one of those games. So they're going to want to keep, and Trevor Lawrence is coming off one of his best games of the season this past week against the Patriots. They're going to want to make sure that doesn't become a trend, and they're going to want to make sure that they get Trevor Lawrence playing like he has for most of the season. But I don't understand. Admittedly, I haven't watched much Jacksonville Jaguars this season. I don't understand what the disconnect is there. But when he hasn't played well, they've lost. When he's played well, the few times they have won.
It seems like he gets flustered very easily because the offensive line for them hasn't been great. So, like you mentioned, the games that they've lost is because he's being sacked 3-4 times a game. In the wins, and when he played the Patriots, and then played the other one was against the Colts.
Yeah,
he was only sacked once or twice. So I mean, that's just the name of the game. So if that pressure is there, good things can happen. But one guy I wanted to ask you about, because you talked to him in the locker room, Xavier McKinney. I think 2 games he hasn't had an interception, but
2 whole games.
2 whole games, right? Like, have the wheels fallen off? That's what I was going to ask you. Just kidding. But I'm curious, just talk about the impact that he has made outside of not just interceptions, because you saw him getting more involved in some of the rush and was able to get a really big sack last weekend.
Well, what I told Xavier McKinney is it's been 2 whole games since you've gotten your hands on the football, which is normal for 99% of DBs. Yeah. That's usually how it goes. But he had 6 straight, right? The first 5 with the Packers in his last game with the Giants. He had 6 straight games with a pick, so it's not normal for him. And yet, he just finds ways to make an impact. I thought it was really interesting. Dom, you were there with me. I thought it was really interesting when I was talking with him about the sack, the edge rush that he had, and he sacked C.J. Stroud unblocked. He said that they've been sitting on that play for a couple weeks now. It was maybe after week 4, around week 5, that they put it into the practice plan. Yeah. They hadn't ran it yet. And the thing that stood out to me is this was Jeff Hafley. We talked about his creativity. We talked about his flexibility in his scheme. This was Jeff Hafley in the midst of having a ridiculous, historic interception streak from your safety, putting a play in that had the safety up at the line of scrimmage, which usually if you got a guy that's taking away the deep middle, you don't want to put him in the line of scrimmage. You want to keep him in the deep middle because he's picking off passes. Jeff Hafley, I think, he understood that even for Xavier McKinney, that streak's going to end at some point. Xavier McKinney can do everything well. I pressed him on, okay, what's your favorite thing? Because we all have things in our job. My job's Packers reporter. His job's safety. We all have things in whatever job you have that you love doing, and some things that you do because you get the paycheck, and it's part of the job, but it's not why you get up in the morning. It's not your passion. It's part of the job. So I asked him, what's your favorite thing to do? And he's like, literally everything. Because if he's not doing everything, he feels like he's getting bored back there. It's a great way to cure the boredom from week to week. He wants to be doing everything because he can, and that's what his passion is. So I thought it was really interesting that they put that play in when they did, because they're taking this guy that's taking away the deep middle, and they're putting him up at the line of scrimmage.
I was fascinated to hear his answer when you asked him about what's his favorite thing, too, and he just broke down whatever needs to be done that week is my favorite. So, like, if that week it was about the rush, he's like, oh, I love it. It's my favorite. When it's sometimes playing deep, getting interceptions, he loves that. And I think him and so many of these guys, Spoon, with Evan Williams of the world and Javon Bullard and Edrin Cooper, like, they're young but really high IQ players. What has stood out to you about these young guys? And obviously you do the combines, you do it all. Are you surprised that these young guys are making so much of an impact so early, or did you see some of that versatility even when you were like looking and examining these guys?
No, I mean, you saw some talent with Bullard right away that, his plus his history playing at Georgia as a slot guy was there. And he was a second round pick for a reason. Evan Williams has surprised me more. Everybody saw what he did in training camp. He made a lot of plays, but it's a little different when you get to the regular season. And you could see in the early going, they wanted to really develop Bullard. I mean, Evan Williams didn't, I don't think he played a snap from scrimmage his first game in the opener in Philadelphia. And then I think he played like 10. And so it took them a few games to realize, okay, Evan Williams as a deep safety is pretty good, and they can move him to the line of scrimmage and just leave Bullard at the slot. And they're finding roles for these guys. It's the same with Edgerrin Cooper. They aren't playing him every down, but they give him some packages where they can make use of his blitzing ability and some other things, his coverage ability. So I think the depth of their defense has really paid off because they haven't had to just force feed these guys into every situation. They find packages to make them successful, get them to do what they do best.
I kind of wonder, and tell me what you think. I kind of wonder if you look at it through Jeff Hafley's lens. He's seeing training camp, and he's seeing Evan Williams making all these plays. And he knows that he's got another safety that's a pretty good safety, right, in Javon Bullard, but also very flexible. He knows that he can play in the slot. He can be a nickel. Jeff Hafley broke it down as you don't want to give a young guy, a rookie, too much too soon.
Yeah.
Right.
So force-feeding those snaps early and really getting Javon Bullard comfortable in that one role maybe is a pathway to getting to where he wanted this secondary alignment to get to eventually, which is more Javon Bullard in the slot. But you can't just put him in the slot because then you're learning two positions as a rookie. It's a lot on your plate. You're not as comfortable and you play slower. When you're not as comfortable, you don't make as many plays. You make more mistakes.
Right.
Trying to get him to that place where they can move him and be comfortable with it to open up that spot for Evan Williams.
Yeah, I think the upgrade for me has been just pure tackling. Evan Williams doesn't miss many tackles.
No.
I think he's got one missed tackle all year. Xavier McKinney doesn't miss very many tackles. Bullard misses a few, but he's always aggressive. He's always taking his shot, and you can't blame him on that. And in the past years, all we've seen is missed tackles. We'll see a guy who missed a ton of tackles this weekend in Darnell Savage, who was supposed to be their savior at safety. And all of a sudden, you've got some really physical players playing on defense. And I think that's changed a lot within the whole defense. I think now you see guys really rallying to the ball. You see guys able to hold a guy up while three other guys come. I think all three of those guys, Cooper, Bullard, and Williams, have given them more physicality to their defense.
Yeah. Does this year's defense, this might be a tough question to answer, does this year's defense remind you of any from past years?
Well, there were some defenses in the early 2000s that relied a lot on turnovers. Had a lot of turnovers, gave up a lot of yards. But this one, I don't know. I don't recall there being such a team that blitzed as much as Hafley did this last game. Yeah, I'd have to really think about it.
Yeah.
The defense they had in 2010 when they won the Super Bowl was the number one defense in the league, and they had Charles Woodson on it, and they had just some. Sam Shields, who was going to be a veteran corner for years, Tramon Williams, who was in the prime of his career. They just had a lot of really good players. And I think that this defense has a chance to be that good, if they stay injury-free.
You know what this defense reminds me of some? This is a little outside the box. It reminds me of last year's offense. for the Packers. Because this offseason, just like the offseason before 2023, Brian Gutekunst, that offseason, had a talent infusion on that offense of young guys really loaded up in the draft. And then what did he do this offseason? Another talent infusion, remade the safety position, he went out in free agency, but a lot of this was through the draft. A lot of young talent that he added, and now he's incorporating, Jeff Hafley is incorporating that talent, that young talent, in this defense. Very similar, I think, to how we saw last year, the young talent being incorporated with the Packers offense. I think that the young guys on this Packers defense are probably even ahead of where the young guys on the Packers offense was last year, because they took their lumps through 2 months, right? And then by the end of the year, you look up and it's like, oh my goodness, they're stacked with playmakers. But it took time, whereas these young guys are getting it early in the season as rookies in their first year. That's impressive.
I guess to segue and jump into this current Packers offense, I don't have a lot to say when we talk about the offense, but I guess it comes down to right now how does like Matt LaFleur and the offensive coaches navigate Jordan Love and the decision making. It seems like, and you ask him the question, is this just the name of the game when you play aggressive? And it seems like from where he's discussed in his press conferences and everything, he's like, I'm not here to throw check downs. I'm not here to just take the easy play. I want to be aggressive. And I guess, is that what you feel? That's just the price you're going to have to pay. You're going to see a lot of interceptions, but at the same time, you'll see some touchdowns and some plays here and there that are just, the wow, eye-jumping type of plays.
I gave him the out. I asked him, is that just the cost of doing business when you got this big arm, you want to make big plays, and you're going to make some big mistakes too? A lot of big plays, a lot of big mistakes, because it's very possible he ends up leading the league in touchdown passes and interceptions by the time it's all said and done. I mean, he's among the league leaders right now in both. And he absolutely pushed back, said, nope, not taking it lightly. The number one goal in this offense, he said right now, is to have a week where you're 100% turnover free, 100% ball security, which has not happened yet with Jordan Love. I think that the week that he reintroduces himself to the check down is the week that you'll see more efficiency, because this offense has so many playmakers that you just get the ball to however is easiest. Just get them the ball and let them make plays. It doesn't have to all be on that big arm for Jordan Love. Just check down. And I think that's I don't know if it's this week, if it's in 6 weeks. I don't know when it'll be, but we saw it last year. It worked very, very well. The week that he finds that check down again, I think you'll see him be more efficient.
What do you make of it?
Yeah, so I went back and watched that game, and if you look at it, his 2 interceptions really had nothing to do with forcing the ball. I changed my opinion after I watched the game, and it felt like he had forced the ball. But the first one was a check, just a quick hitch to Wicks, and he wasn't patient enough to wait to see whether that guy sitting in the hook zone was going to play that ball or he should throw it out to Dobbs. So it was really just a read he didn't see, so it didn't have anything to do with forcing it. Then I went back and looked at the Watson play, and if you look at it, Watson is the only guy who's open on that play. And Zach Tom lets Daniil Hunter get right by him, and just as he's uncorking the ball, Hunter hits him right in the ribs, and that's what made the ball sail. So I do still think, there's been too many interceptions, but I don't know if the Texans game is the example to use of him forcing it. It's still the Arizona game, the one to Dobbs, he still should have hit Christian Watson crossing across the middle, wide open. He doesn't need to throw that deep ball. He doesn't need to throw the deep ball he threw against Minnesota, to Wicks. Maybe he's turning the corner a little bit and we don't realize it. I think this game will kind of tell us, because I think this other game wasn't as bad as we thought. Now, let's see if he reverts to going back and throwing it up for grabs against Jacksonville, or he's, makes decent decisions and doesn't throw any interceptions. That's kind of what I want to see.
Especially though, because when you look at the Jags defensively, I mean, when you're 2-5, there's not going to be many things that you are good at. But especially that secondary, I believe, has been a group that has struggled mightily for this Jaguars defense. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, they have a good corner, and they Savage has played in the slots. Savage has played at safety. I don't think they're particularly deep in the secondary. They got to get after the quarterback. They got Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen, Allen Hines or Hines Allen.
Yeah.
Those are two guys who can get after it. But this should be a game where they can move the ball. I think they should be able to make some hay in the passing game as long as they pass protect. I think they can carve them up. It would be a good day for Jordan Love to just go back, do his reads, take what the defense gives them, and I think they'd wind up scoring a lot of points.
Yeah. Is there anything else, Ryan, offensively that you're looking at? Because, I mean, Spoon just kind of alluded to, like, there could be a lot of passes thrown, so, who knows how many touches Josh Jacobs will get, and also just depends on how many series they have on offense and how many possessions you have in it. But I guess what else are you curious about when you look at this offense?
I think how much they incorporate Josh Jacobs continues to be a week-to-week thing to monitor. Over the course of his career in Las Vegas, 50% of his career games, he had 20 touches, and almost all of those were 20 rushes. I mean, he's a guy that's built for that. And yeah, he can be a receiver out of the backfield, but he's not the receiver out of the backfield that Aaron Jones was. He never has been. He is a workhorse running back that gets 20 carries a game. And if you hit that number with him, it can only mean good things for the passing game because that's balance. And every quarterback's best friend is balance. The run game makes everything easier for your quarterback. So he's had 20 touches in 3 of the Packers' 7 games this season. It's just shy of 50%. Do they hit that mark? 4 of 8 after this week? They've won all 3 of those games, and I don't think that's a coincidence. When he's getting a healthy sample of workload, this offense is better for it.
Speaking of offense, in the last point, the Packers have a guest that is helping them work with the offensive side of the ball. That'd be former New York Jets coach Robert Saleh, best friend of Matt LaFleur. They were best man. I think LaFleur was the best man in Saleh's wedding, and they have a long relationship that goes back to college days.
Impeccably bald man, too. I mean, the one thing that the Packers need more in their orbit for sure, Dominique,
that's right,
is more bald guys.
That's right.
That can't be a bad thing.
What was his eyebrow game?
That's right.
That's what I want to know.
That's usually it, right?
That's big in the Shanahan, McVay crew. Those guys are big on eyebrows.
That could get feisty between him and Matt LaFleur, maybe, because they might be best friends, but Matt LaFleur is very proud of that eyebrow game.
That is true. But then, it's interesting because he's going to be staying at LaFleur's house the next couple of days, and I guess they're just going to be like college roommates again or just buddies and all of that. But I guess what stood out, talking to LaFleur, he said Saleh's not going to be working with the defense. It's solely the offense. And one thing in terms of being fairly candid, he said, I don't want to mess up what the defense has going on right now. And he kind of said, it wouldn't be fair to Jeff Hafley. 7 games into being a defensive coordinator, we bring in my best friend, and he comes in with things. Just, I guess, what did you make of just the whole ordeal getting, Robert Saleh here and now him working with the offense?
Yeah, I guess I believe him. I mean, he shouldn't let Saleh anywhere near the defensive side of the building. No. I mean, not near any meetings. Don't let him run into any of the coaches, any of the players.
Cordon him off.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I believe LaFleur because he sure as heck didn't want to offend the last guy. He never wanted to bring anybody in to help him. And
Robert Saleh was never available to bring in, too, though. If Robert Saleh was available, he might have been here.
There were some guys at Schwabenland High School could have helped, last year. So, I think it's a good idea. Anytime you can use a guy to another brain in the building, and if you want to do, I think it's a good thing that, Saleh can go up on a board and say, this is your offense. This is how I would attack your offense. Be ready. someone's going to figure this out, and this is where your weakness is. And I think that's a good idea. I think if you can get something out of that, go for it.
I'm wondering if that can get Jordan Love to be more efficient, maybe having an extra set of eyeballs from a defensive side. Because to me, the biggest question with this offense right now is, can they get to where they want to get to with Jordan Love playing the way he is? And like that, let me make it very clear. He's not playing bad. He's making a ton of big plays.
Yeah.
He's making a ton of plays, period.
Oh, yeah.
He threw a ball through another human being in the end zone to Tucker Kraft. And I still don't know how the safety didn't get that ball. He's making some throws that are wow throws. No question about it. And he's thrown picks, whether it's a read, whether it's a pass rush, whether it's force, whatever it is. Picks are picks, and you got to take care of the football. Can they get to a Super Bowl when you have a guy who is making a lot of plays, yes, but also making a lot of mistakes in terms of the ball security area? That to me is the biggest question with this offense nearing the midway point of the season.
Well, Mahomes has got 8 interceptions
Yes,
also,
he does.
and much fewer touchdowns.
That's true.
And they're 6-0.
Yeah.
7-0? 6-0? I can't remember. They had the bye.
They're undefeated.
Yeah, they're
They haven't lost.
Undefeated.
Right. I was actually looking at that, and the biggest difference for Mahomes is he has a much higher completion percentage. So that's where I think Jordan Love has to improve.
That's
his
efficiency.
completion percentage. Yeah, that's efficiency. Yeah. Keep drives going. But Jordan Love gets blitzed more than any other quarterback in the NFL. And so that's also a process he had to go through last year, and he's going through it again this year because it's not easy. You gotta make a team pay for blitzing you, and they haven't always been able to do that. I think they did it a little bit. Well, I think the Wicks one, nobody blitzed on that one. The Tucker Kraft one, I think he had time. So I don't know. That's where maybe Christian Watson comes in, where they gotta predict some blitzes and get him some one-on-ones.
That's not a coincidence. When I did the story at the end of last season, looking at every single pass that Jordan Love threw and charting everything about it. One of the things I charted was whether it was a clean pocket or not, and he was automatic. He was like a 120 passer rating with a clean pocket. I mean, automatic.
And he's good this year with it, too.
Yeah.
You can't give him a clean pocket. He will kill you.
Oh, yeah.
He got better in the second half of last season, for sure, in a dirty pocket. No question about it. He was much better than the first 2 months, but it still wasn't great, and it definitely wasn't a clean pocket Jordan Love. So that's not a coincidence. Defensive coordinators know that too. If I know that, defensive coordinators know that, and they know that you got to get a dirty pocket on Jordan Love, or he, as Spoon said, he will carve you up.
Yeah. One thing, this is not really a question, but it's been like an observation in terms of sometimes, like we talked about with that criticism of Jordan Love's, sometimes even I personally forget a lot of the quarterbacks that sophomore year, it happens. I have to give, kudos to Pete Doherty, his column. You look at everyone from the Brett Favre, Tom Brady, I think Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, you name it, those guys. Peyton Manning, yeah, it's like 20, 21, 22, 23 interceptions that second year. And so for Jordan Love, who knows, he might be on pace to 15 or 16, but I think, like you said, that is the cost of doing business. But if he has a higher completion percentage plus more touchdowns, I think you can live with it because, they are still 5-2, and they are still figuring things out, and some of those receivers are still stepping up. Tucker Kraft has been great, so I still think, for the most part, this offense is in a pretty good place. Obviously, it could be in a better place, but no team is a finished product. But I still think it's going to be just fascinating, especially heading into this game for sure with the not great defense.
One last area I want to see him take advantage of is running the ball. I think there's some opportunities for him to really make, just totally make defenses frustrated.
Yeah.
Because if they're going to blitz him and there's something up the middle, go ahead and take it. I think he's been reluctant to run. I think why test it on the knee unless you're absolutely sure you can get free. I think we might see that more like after the bye week, when he's had some time to really rest and get that thing right.
That's true. Lastly, let's jump into special teams. Nothing really to discuss as far as kicker, because Brandon McManus, he hit his field goal.
He made the kick.
Made the extra point.
He made the kick.
Going back to Jacksonville now.
It's true. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, he was there for a while. But as far as the rest of the special teams, is it safe to say, are there some concerns? Like, what do you make of some of the muff punts and catching the ball at the 2? Just a lot of areas that do you feel like it brings a cause of concern, Ryan?
Well, they got the 2 most important positions potentially figured out. And if they do, if Brandon McManus comes in and solidifies the kicking spot, y'all know what Daniel Whelan can do as a punter.
Yeah.
That's a good place to start. But, yes, there's concerns. They released Matt Orzech but brought him back this week. They're confident in Matt Orzech. But that snap on the game winner was not a good snap. And you were right, Spoon, to point out that in the end zone in L.A., he almost sailed a snap over Daniel Whelan's head. So they're confident in him, but that's the 3rd most important. You got to have a good long snapper that delivers the ball automatically every single time, right? They haven't had that, so we'll see. The bigger issue, though, is obviously the decision making on that in that phase. You know, Jaden Reed catches a punt at the 2-yard line. Keyshawn Nixon was the back man when the punt hit Corey Ballantyne.
Yeah.
These are things that you expect a special teams coordinator, whoever it is, to get figured out, and Rich Bisaccia hasn't. And he's been here for more than a cup of coffee at this point. Yeah. It needs to get figured out, and it goes on Rich Bisaccia's desk. It's his responsibility to figure that out.
Yeah, and we also, I don't know that there's been a ton of great plays in the NFL, but there's almost nothing that's like a game-changing play. They're very solid in terms of coverage. Like, the kickoff coverage has been pretty good. Punt coverage has been pretty good. Their punting is really good. But there's nothing. I don't know that there's been anything like a block punt or a block field goal or someone got a hand on was that an extra point or a field goal? I think didn't he get his hand on? I can't remember if that was in L.A. or what. Anyway, I that's the next phase. You got all these really talented players. Let's see if you can take that special teams to another level
without penalties. Yeah. Because they had a big return from Keyshawn Nixon this past week, and
there was a hold back.
Yeah. That was a potential game-changing play, right?
That's true.
Great field position, and then it was the opening kickoff return. You bring it all the way back to the 20 when you're out past the 40, almost to midfield.
I'm usually not, critical of the refs, but I watched that play several times, and I'm not really sure what the call was. He called him Mosby for holding. I thought he did everything right, but who knows? The penalties get called. You gotta know when to let go.
Yeah. Well, when penalties really get called is when the reputation's out that you're a team that has a lot of penalties. And the reputation's out on this young Packers team through 7 games. They blur the line sometimes, and so officials are going to be looking at it. It's no different than offensive or defensive coordinators. When you see a flaw in the opposing offense or defense, you're going to attack it, right? Well, it's human nature. At the end of the day, officials are humans, and if you know a team commits a lot of penalties, you're going to be on the lookout for it.
You have to cut down, and for instance, the offensive line has cut down its penalties. Rasheed Walker, when's the last time he got called for a holding call?
It's true.
So that's the expectation on special teams. If the offensive line can cut back on its holding penalties and still be pretty good, why can't the special team?
It's true, because the Packers had 8 total penalties, I believe, in this past game, and 3 came from the special teams, which is just very, very alarming, especially with one position group that is not on the field as much as your offense or your defense. So, you're going to have to get that cleaned up. Just finally, any final thoughts from you guys, just thinking about this matchup in particular, and I guess what's at stake? I know it'll be interesting to watch Trevor Lawrence. Xavier McKinney talked about that, and because they go back to the college days, playing for national championships. But is just any final thoughts and just things on this game or the Packers?
I don't have anything. I just want to say you two are looking some kind of wonderful today. I don't know what it is. But both of you, Dominique, Spoon, you look some kind of wonderful.
Yeah,
I wonder why.
we are going to Stevie Wonder concert.
A few hours
Gonna
from
party
now.
it up.
We didn't even know each other was going.
No.
Until about an hour ago,
Which is
And
incredible.
So we'll meet up there and have a really nice time.
Yeah.
And good for you to get out. Go see the Fiserv Forum, and
Yeah.
it should be a blast.
First time at Fiserv?
First time, yeah.
I just went to I took my kids and was with my dad for a Bucks game late last regular season. Great venue.
Yeah.
Really great venue.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what it's like for a concert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't been in a concert, but I got the seats. I did the old man thing. So, like, I could have gotten fairly close to the stage, but on the side, and I'm like, that's bad for my neck. I don't want to be looking to my left. That's
Yeah.
going to hurt. So I got behind the basket, straight away from the stage, but I get to look straight,
Yeah.
and so that's going to hurt my neck.
I'm looking forward to the Instagram videos.
Oh, man.
I'll live vicariously tonight.
Yeah. I know. I do. I laugh, though, because I started with asking you guys, that question. Here's something you probably never imagined a 30-year-old guy would say. I'm going to a Stevie Wonder concert. But yeah, I told you, I'm an old school guy. And my parents, that's all they listen to, is just like that old school and R&B music. So
I'm probably older than your parents.
62? 61?
Yeah. I can say that I had a Stevie Wonder album in 1972. Let's just say that.
You're old enough to be my dad, Spoon. I think, yeah.
That is incredible.
Mathematically.
But yeah, I'm excited. I mean, he's a genius, so I could just do a totally different podcast talking to Stevie. So when we go to Jacksonville, instead of talking the game, I'm just going to talk about the Stevie concert. So yeah.
Isn't
Before
that
we
lovely?
go, I'm obligated to remind people about the live blog.
Yes, yes.
Every Sunday, it's been subscriber only, and it will be again Sunday. So there's all kinds of deals out there. Get a subscription, come join me. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, he does a great job with it.
He's a miracle worker. I've been saying this for years. I sit next to him in the press box, and I don't know how he does it.
No.
It's unbelievable.
Coffee.
Caffeine!
I
know
know
it.
coffee.
I know it. 'Cause-
I couldn't do it. Like, point blank, what you do, I could not do. I don't know how you do it.
No. Especially me. I can't sit still during the game. You see, I'm always going to grab a coffee or some cheese curds at halftime. And Spoon's still typing away.
There's no pit stops. He's just glued in. It's unbelievable.
So it is
Yeah.
great.
Well, I also don't talk to anybody. I'm just,
No.
I mean, I'm pretty much a jerk.
I've learned that lesson.
That's true, yeah.
Don't disturb the peace over here.
Yeah, but yeah, please do subscribe and follow along to that live blog because it's a lot of just information, quite frankly, that the commentators on the TV or radio might miss. Spoon's going to have it. So
Spoon
And,
misses
and
nothing.
all our coverage, too. You get all
Yeah,
our
yeah,
coverage.
yeah.
It's not just the live chat.
yeah, that's right.
Anyway.
So, you are the lead singer, right? If this was, it's not the Jackson 5, it's only
Give me
4.
this thing.
He's our Stevie Wonder. That's right.
That's right. So it's great.
Only, you got astute observations. You don't miss anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's it for this week's Green 19 podcast on this Thursday. We'll be back on Sunday when the Packers take on the Jaguars in Jacksonville. Looking forward to seeing what's to come of that game. For Ryan Wood, Tom Silverstein, I'm Dominique Yates. Thanks for checking out the show.